Hi, so it's Patrick Chanley at ptlarts.com. I'm an artist. I do portraits, landscapes, well, seascapes, landscapes, urban, watercolours. I'm building up a portfolio of those, which are now almost started putting them on my shop already. So I do keep my word. So art and learning. I just want to carry on a bit more about the whole thought process about art and the business as far as it's from my perspective. Like it's really possible to go off. There's some wonderful courses and groups of people, artists and stuff that you can join their communities and build your own business, like working with them. It's a big investment, but worth doing. But really, having these sort of discussions and getting certain things in place is advisable probably before you do that shit. Because it means that you can like approach it. You can spend your money well. So if you're going to spend money on a course with them, you really you can actually get a lot of stuff sorted in your head before you go investing loads of money. Now, I mean, I started last year. I've invested a certain amount of money, quite a lot of money, but I feel I've been fairly fortunate. A few mistakes, but nothing like massive. And the great thing online, you can learn a hell of a lot without spending out loads of money. So what I suggest is that for starters. So I'm going to talk about two things really. So the first point I'm going to talk about again, because I've talked about it before, but it's a bit more specific now. Maybe because I'm getting a bit more specific about what to share with you, is like about reveal the artist within you around business. Okay, so art as a business, art a business. I prefer without is art a business. So again, to recap, there's a common misconception, and it is a misconception, that business people work with one bit of their brain, creative people work with another part of their brain, and never actually it's difficult to think in a business way if you're creative. It's actually not true. You can be creative within business. It's just, yes, some of the concepts can be just a bit more difficult to put in place, but actually they're difficult for everybody, whether you've got a business mind or you're a creative person or what. They're just difficult because they sort of like contradict the logic that you would normally have. So like it's a constant battle, if you like, with these. So reveal the artist within you. So this is like a brand, if you like. There are plenty of examples of brands around us, aren't there? I mean, we're bombarded from day in, day out with adverts all day long, even if we like to think or not get involved with it. We are, aren't we? Everything that we think. It's amazing how things like stick in our minds and we take them on board to be true. So I've written some notes for this, which I'm not a great note person, but I just wanted to remember to share the whole of this sort of story. I was actually having a conversation this morning with somebody around this. So an example for me of this brain tricking thing that we have is around skiing. Now, I've never been into skiing. In fact, I grew up on a council estate in Bognor Regis. Skiing wasn't on the agenda, really. And the only I didn't really know anything about it. And apart from anything else, it's very flat. So when I was little, the only exposure I had to skiing was in James Bond films. So like the old James Bond films, there'd be a film with somebody, well, actually, they'd be skiing probably in a studio with a film of a mountain behind them, carefully, like, playing with gadgets at the same time, shooting each other, and then there'd be a shot of them dodging around trees that had obviously been, like, carefully engineered by some amazing cameraman in those days. Not, you couldn't have one of these action cameras that you strap to your head. So that was the very exciting idea of skiing. So, and always in these films and anything, there seemed to be a lot of skiing films. Now I understand why, because it was building a brand, you see. It's building a whole industry that hadn't existed before. Yeah, when you saw the locals, I just imagined, you know, with their great big mugs of beer, which is actually what I was most interested in. German, just sort of German Austrian, that they, you know, for centuries and centuries and centuries, been racing up and down the hills, you know, and they're experts. They could sort of do it on one ski or on their hands or something. So I just imagined that it was an ancient thing, downhill skiing, you know. So it's only recently that because I'd never really been interested. Yeah, the locals in the film were sort of like Austrian Sound of Music types, which of course was another brand that I picked up on as a child. So it's incredible, isn't it? We've grown up, like my generation and generations on, with all of these brands stamped on our minds, even to the point where we think, you know, we trust banks, we trust doctors, yeah, because it's like a brand, isn't it? So anyway, it turns out that the good old Brits decided to make a sport of it, downhill skiing, and then it occurred to me in this conversation this morning, which in fact, my brain doesn't work like this. Of course, you know, how the hell do you get to the top of the hill? Of course, it's, you know, if you know about skiing, obviously you get into a machine that takes you to the top of the mountain, and then you ski down. Of course, you don't think of that when you're watching. You see these people think, oh, well, they've done it for years. But of course, they haven't done it for years. It was in the 1950s or something that it all started. So anyway, so the thing is when you, the beauty of it is when you decide to become I'm PTL Paintings at PTL.com. So PTL, I've got a bit of a struggle with my brand because it's sort of also, you know, PTL can mean praise the Lord. It's not that I've got a problem with praising the Lord or anything, but it's not part of my brand necessarily, apart from the fact that I practice Buddhism. It's because my name's Patrick Turner Lee. So that's just something I've got to bear in mind. Anyhow, the great thing is whatever you decide to present yourself as a brand, that is what people will take on board that you are. So this brings me to point 2, quality and value. So you've got your brand and people go, oh yeah, I'd like to have a look at that. Like people see my paintings, oh yeah, I'd like to have one of those. The important thing is that you deliver quality and value. I mean, I know it seems completely obvious, but if you don't, very quickly your brand will be destroyed, won't you? So I'm sure you can think of examples of that when, even like with food places and stuff, especially with, interestingly, I think it's like a fish and chips. If you go somewhere, I've been somewhere for years getting fish and chips, and it's been fine. And if I go there once and it isn't, then I might go once more after that, but then I'll find somewhere else. And that's what happens, isn't it? You do it, I do it. So it's not complicated, but it's to be remembered. And the other thing is if you become broadcasting like I'm doing now, I'm broadcasting to you through YouTube and video. You know, some days you don't feel so hot, do you? So you either admit it straight away like I'm okay today, but I did some video last night and I wasn't okay. And very quickly, you know, it shows very, very quickly. You can see it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but it just shows that, you know, we're very astute, aren't we? We're able to see what's in front of us. So quality, value. So it can be a sticking point, especially with art objects, and being an artist is a little bit different because we've got like a personal investment and it's like part of us. It's almost like it's like we've given birth to this creation in a sense. So it's really difficult. One, we tend to want to protect our children, isn't it? So we like fiercely protect. That can really send out a strange message. And also, so like the object or what we've created is like a container of value, if you like, and that is what you're providing for your customer. So part of the exchange of energy comes in the form of money. So it becomes relevant to the value, doesn't it? So the object is worth the value of the object you've made. So it's not, so gradually, you know, this comes back to authenticity, doesn't it? So this comes back, it's not point 3 because I've talked about authenticity earlier. The authenticity is, in the long term, it's about being true to yourself. And so it's like really owning what you've done and being, so when you are, you're not fazed if the customer suddenly decides they don't want it. You don't feel like you failed or it's not any good. It's just a case of, it's not that necessarily that they don't want it for the reasons that you think, but you know, you start to own the value. The value is already in there because it's part of your life you've put into this object. So that's why it's harder in a way to like sell your artwork, because of this personal vulnerability, if you like, that you're sharing on another level. So fair enough. If you're really, really, really don't want to be involved with that, then this isn't the right sort of path to go down. But I feel that like the more that I am going down this road, that it strengthens the whole of my character, like throughout the whole of my life. So, you know, it isn't just limited to the business of selling the painting. It sort of has an impact on the whole of my life and my happiness. So I don't really want to give responsibility to somebody else. And also, it's that somebody else is going to take a lot of your revenue, aren't they? So that's you deserve to have because it's your value. There. So that's one for today. If you like what I'm talking about or if you've got any thoughts and comments, please give me a thumbs up or make a comment below. And I'll see you on the next video.